Our children, the second segment. If you've not listened to the show and you missed the first segment, it was great, but this second segment will be even better. The premise of this show, Our Communities, Our Children, is that you and I and all the people around us, we have the resources necessary to improve the quality of life and living for our children, our teens, and our young adults. We just need to bring those resources together consistently and deliver them consistently. And that's what you're going to hear about when you listen to Our Communities, Our Children. Resources to help our children. And speaking of resources, let's just talk about two of them. The Generation Google Scholarship is part of Google's ongoing commitment to advancing computing and technology. They're pleased to provide scholarships to encourage students to excel in their studies and become active role models and leaders. They are hoping that these programs will also help in dismantling barriers that keep women and minorities from entering computing and technology fields. The Generation Google Scholarship is a new program for aspiring computer scientists to excel in technology and become active role models and leaders in the field. Selected students will receive $10,000 for studying in the U.S. or $5,000 in Canada each year for up to 4 years, or until graduation, whichever comes first, as long as they maintain the criteria for renewal. Recipients will also be invited to attend Google's Computer Science Institute. If you're interested in this scholarship, you should email them at generationgoogle@google.com. generationgoogle@google.com. Now, the second resource for our young people is the Nordstrom Scholarship. Nordstrom is excited to award $10,000 scholarships or $10,000 scholarships in installments of $2,500 for 4 years, each year for 4 years. They're going to give this to 80 outstanding high school students to help them achieve their dreams of going to college. If you're interested in this, you should give them, you should reach them at 206-373-4550. 206-373-4550 for the Nordstrom Scholarship. Mr. Arlie Gordon is my co-host on this show, and he's going to bring you the remainder of the show. Mr. Gordon.
And thank you, Mr. West. Welcome back to Our Communities, Our Children. Without further ado, I want to bring on, we got some heavy hitters in the studio tonight. O.T. Stewart, Dropping Jewels?
Yes, droppingjewels.com. That's
all right.
The slang spelling.
All right. And, you know, he's putting out these powerful DVDs. Share with our listeners, if you would, Brother Stewart, what Dropping Jewels is all about.
Well, Dropping Jewels is all about teaching a generation of young people to use simple but powerful ideas to focus their minds and emotions so that they can accomplish what it is they're trying to accomplish. You got companies, corporations, individuals who pay millions of dollars for a few minutes of our young people's attention. Why is that? Because they're trying to influence how these young people perceive things and what they want to do. So what I wanted to do is try to put some information out there, try to give young people some tools so that they can learn how to perceive things for themselves, so that they can make their own decisions and focus their minds and emotions so they can be who they want to be, do what they want to do, have what they want to have, and go where they want to go.
Very well said. And do you have an organization? I know I'm looking at these DVDs. You mentioned to me before the show that you're really about supporting other youth-based and community service organizations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I wanted to take a slightly different approach. I think that a lot of times with so many things going on in our community, we're so busy putting out fires that we don't take a long-term approach. So I stepped back and I said, I'm not living up to my responsibilities to my community, so let me step back. So what I did is I used a jewel from my own system, begin with the end in mind. So what's the end? My mission is to leave my community better than I found it. What my objective is to reduce the rate of incarceration that plagues our community in a significant, sustainable, and measurable way over the the next 10 years. So I took a more long-term approach. So my strategy is, again, to train that generation of young people to focus their minds and emotions. The plan is to create a website where I can disseminate this free information, and today's action is marketing, put out this DVD. It's available free to any prison, any jail, any place where people are incarcerated, and it's also available to purchase so that people incarcerated who want to strengthen and develop the bonds with their children can have things where they can be challenging and encourage each other. Where the father could be incarcerated and working on the jewel, but he now has a connection somewhere, starting a conversation with a young person.
Share with us real quick some of the pearls of wisdom when you talk about dropping jewels.
Oh, well, I got quite a few jewels, some of them from my personal vault, and some of them that I've learned over the years. One of the ones on there is, if you abuse a privilege, you lose a privilege. And that's something I learned from my 4th grade teacher, but it's something that stayed with me. And that's something you can teach a child very early. That's an important lesson. Even as a child begins to read and write, okay, what are you going to write? You can write the rules of the house. See, what is a privilege? See, it opens a lot of discussions. What is it? And even in things like relationships, older people have to learn. The relationship is a privilege. Even sometimes you're related to people, you can't help it. But if somebody abuses that privilege in your relationship, you got to decide where the line of abuse is, then they should lose that relationship. Saying, so what I try to do in these commentaries is point out the different aspects of your life and different ways you can apply these to do the things that I spoke about.
I want you to stay with us. Quickly tell our listeners how they can get more information about your work and your DVDs.
Okay, you can go to YouTube/JewelMaster1162, and you can see a sample of about 3 or 4 of the commentaries. You can view those for free. And the rest of the information you can get from the website, droppinjewels.com, droppinjewelz.com. And I have a free training system on there for any young person. Free list of jewels. You can go on there, print it out, use it yourself, mail it to an incarcerated parent. That way they can share it with their young people, so that we can start building a generation of young people. Take a few minutes a day. Focus your mind and emotions. Otherwise, somebody else has a plan for you.
Very well said. Let me bring Kai Smith of Graphics right in as a follow-up, because I think that in many ways, I know in many ways, this is what Kai is doing every day in the schools and among our communities of children. Kai, what I'd like you to do is sort of share where we're going to take the rest of the show tonight in terms of some of our very special guests and studio guests.
Right, so this may be my 3rd time in the studio, and as before, when I was here before, I promised that I would bring some individuals back, some former gang members that the graphics program provides services to, and those individuals are present. I promised that I would bring back Gregory Russell, my director of gang relations, and Mr. Russell is here. So, really quickly, and coming right from our material, so that I can quote it verbatim, the graphics program. The mission is to decrease criminal activity, recidivism, and absent fathering by providing positive real-time alternatives to people genuinely interested in change. And I say genuinely interested in change because, we like to say that we don't waste resources on individuals that don't want to be helped. The graphics program is an intervention program. And for so many years, individuals have come home from lengthy periods of incarceration. For so many years, individuals have been involved with gang activity and criminal activity. And so many years, children have been declared at risk. And some of those individuals, really, when you speak to them one-to-one, they really have no desire to change. And if an individual has no desire to change, all of the resources in the world that you provide to that person is just wasted resources because they don't want to change. That goes, and I'm quite sure, as I'm looking at this powerful DVD, I know this brother has some jewel in here that goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
It's not on this DVD, but it's definitely on the website. It's on the master list. Thank you, brother.
Exactly. So, and that's what that speaks to. And so graphics is an intervention program, and we work with those individuals that want to change. When we find those individuals that are absolutely dedicated to change, we blanket them with resources in order to get them from where they are to where they need to be. So I'm not going to take up too much time. I bought, last time I was here, I mentioned we put the call out for Audley Jackson to come through. And he's a former blood, you know, with high-ranking, you know, former high-ranking blood in the community of Brownsville. And, you know, he's working with us with graphics. You know, the program is working to help him turn his life around. And, of course, you know, you've seen on WABC Here and Now, Gregory Russell was with me, and for his generation, he most definitely put it down as an OG blood, one of the individuals that established the respect that the Bloods have here in the city of New York. You know, and then I bought, you know, a very close comrade of ours named T. You know, he's going to come in and he's going to put it down as well. So you guys have heard enough from me. What we're going to do is we're going to bring them in and let them give you the behind the scenes to what you really don't get the opportunity to see.
You know, and I think this is such an important show, and we may not be able to get all of it in tonight, but we're going to definitely be doing follow-ups, because I think too often, in too many places and cases, we become two worlds. Absolutely. The world of us oldies and the world of our young. And I think the first and foremost thing that we need to do is build a bridge of communication. We need to start talking to the young brothers on the corner, smoking the blunts and hitting the 40s, okay? We sort of let them fend for themselves. Yeah. And I think that we need to start looking at how do we build that bridge. And I think too often we go through rhetoric. We're talking about the problems, but we're not bringing forth real solutions. We're not walking toward solutions. Greg, I want you to hit up the mic. Talk a little bit about your role with graphics, good brother.
Hi, how you doing? My role with graphics is hands-on. You know, I deal with these clients hands-on. I wouldn't like to call them clients. I like to call them my little brothers, because I'm experienced with being a gang member and being part of New York City and everything that entails, the struggles that you're going to go through when you enter the prison system, when you come home, the type of stress you're going to be under, the type of barriers you're going to be faced with. And that's a hard situation to be under if you're not used to dealing with stressful situations. You don't really have the coping mechanisms to deal with a stressful situation, because you don't know how to resolve conflict and resolution, to, you know, just to adjust those issues when you're in the street. A lot of brothers want to get out of gangs. They just don't know how to make the transition.
That's real.
Unfortunately, for me to change, I had to spend 4 years in solitary, couldn't leave the cell, and I was forced to change. I was forced to look in the mirror every day. So I'm coming from a spiritual aspect. I try to incorporate spirituality, because you're going to need it.
Faith, man.
When you wake up in the morning, as soon as you wake up, the battle is on. It's the war between the spirit and the flesh. Mm-hmm. And whichever one you feed the most is what's going to determine what type of person you are. So you got to start feeding yourself the spirituality stuff to get you more strengthened to deal with the stresses of the world that you face with every day.
And I think that's real important, but I want to talk about you having someone like Kai in your life, and how you now try to personify for someone that is in some of our young brothers' lives who may not be there. I mean, you know, the fact is we're dealing with a lot of our men in jail, in the joint. We're dealing with a lot of children growing up without that positive role model, yeah. That positive man in their life.
Yeah.
All they see is, you know, the knuckleheads on the corner, be they the drug dealers or, you know, whatever they're doing. All they see is the stuff on TV, which ain't trying to put out a positive image or message.
All right, well, I can address that. Now, me and Kai, we go back 25 years. We met each other in prison. We were kindred spirits at the time. And what I see that's lacking out here is a lack of mentoring out here. So our trademark slogan is, the dads are back. We bridging the gap from anti-hope to anti-dope. We the antidote right now. So we actually trying to bridge the gap between absent fathers that went away for a long time or had bouts with drugs or anything like that. And so we trying to bridge the gap with the younger brothers that are, you know, Generation X, we like to call them, because they like a lost tribe that basically raised themselves off of TV and the things that, you know, society put out there for them to emulate. And so the guys that went away for a long time, a lot of them are coming back. A lot of them are home. So we're trying to bridge that gap to pair up like a lot of OG brothers that really know the ropes pair them up with these younger brothers as mentors, father figures, older brothers, and see how far we can go with that.